The call of the Hogs can be heard all the way to San Francisco.
You're listening to Pod at the Palace with Curtis Wilkerson on Inside Arkansas.
What's up, everybody? Curtis Wilkerson here with Inside Arkansas with a little breaking news edition of the Pod at the Palace presented by our partners at OZK Insurance and Walter Christmas Lighting of Arkansas. What's one way to make this Friday better when we already get to see Arkansas basketball in action at Bud Walton Arena tonight for prime time at the Palace? I don't know. How about a new addition to the Razorback family? Does that sound good to you guys? Because you got one. Abdu Tore committed to the Razorbacks at a ceremony at Notre Dame High School in Connecticut. The man who has been at the top of the big board for weeks. You've heard about it on this show. Red hot. DEFCON 1. Commitment watch. Made it all official on Friday morning. Committed to the Razorbacks. Coach Cal gets his guy, and the Hoop Hogs are back on the board. It's a beautiful thing. You love to see it. Let's see. You chose the Razorbacks over a Final Three that included Providence and UConn. You know, Providence, who was the main competition here. UConn, who was the home state school, but a 6'5", 195-pound wing who's a high four-star prospect in his class. He's the number 31 overall player in the 2026 class. And, that's according to the industry average. He's the top-ranked player coming out of the state of Connecticut, which, talent and ranking-wise, if you're looking for comps or, what ballpark, what ranges is he in compared to some Razorback commits of the past or whatever. Abdu, he's number 31 in his class, and Billy Richmond was number 27 in his. So a little bit of reference there. Close, although I do acknowledge that Billy's class, I think, was a little bit deeper overall than this one, but same ballpark, same range. The production for Abdu Tore, guys, is just through the roof. I mean, he was the Connecticut Gatorade Player of the Year. He averaged 25.2 points, 6.5 rebounds, 3.3 assists, and 2.3 steals per game for Notre Dame High School, just shy of 1,500 career points, and he hasn't even started his senior season yet, so he's going to be a 2,000-point scorer. That's good stuff. His team, his high school team, 53-2 the last 2 years, back-to-back champs, so winning at a very high level. We had a really, really good summer on the 3SSB circuit, the Adidas circuit with BABC, and that team was undefeated well into the summer, deep into the summer. The dude is just an absolute winner. He really is. And, averaged 15.7 points, 6.6 boards, 2.4 assists, and then, and this is what you love to see, 1.6 blocks and 1.4 steals per game over the course of the summer. When you have that stocks category of stats, the steals plus blocks at 3.0 or higher, you were very, very impactful on the defensive end of the floor, and he is. Abdu was one of the standout performers at the Adidas All-American camp in August. Hell of a player, and he's got a shot at the McDonald's All-American game. It's going to be close, but he's certainly in those conversations. So I'm going to have some highlights. I'm going to play him in the background for you guys while we talk a little bit more about him. Hopefully you guys can multitask a little bit better than I can, and you can watch this and listen to me at the same time. But what are you going to see? Boom, high-level athleticism, man. I've seen Abdu Tore comps, and, I can see that if he continues to grow. Remember, Abdu Tore was about Abdu Tore's size when he was in high school, and he hit a growth spurt. But, I got to say, Abdu, his wiry, athletic frame that you see there, his explosiveness getting up off the floor, it kind of reminds me of Billy Richmond in many ways. And Billy is one of those guys you can tell, he's long and athletic, but his size really sneaks up on you. Like, you get close to him and you realize, oh, Billy's a big, strong kid, man. He's got some muscle on him. And I think Abdu is similar in that way, and he's similar in the way that he competes and gets after it and does all the dirty work, dives on the floor for loose balls. Fans are going to love him. I have no doubt about that. At the same time, though, the way that Abdu gets downhill, and like you see right there, he just absorbs contact, isn't able to finish through it. Another one right there, took the bump and finished. Reminds me of Carter Knox. It reminds me a lot of Carter Knox. And if you guys remember the Coach Cal reference from the other day that we talked about, where he said Carter Knox is like a car crash getting downhill, and that's a compliment, by the way. Yeah, I think it applies here. Now, I wouldn't call Abdu like a shooter by trade at this stage of his development. But if we're doing the Billy Richmond comps, I feel pretty confident in saying that the jumper is a little bit further along than where Billy's was coming into college. It's a little bit long at times. You needs to get a little bit more compact, quicker release, and consistent. But he's got something to work with there. He does. It's not broke by any means. But we're really looking at just the next in line of super athletically gifted wings to come through Arkansas basketball and to play for John Calipari. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's good for it. And you've got a lot of versatility here with Abdu Tore. He essentially played all 5 positions at times throughout the summer. His team, BABC, they didn't have a center. So he's athletic and strong and everything else. He wound up playing center a lot. Power forward. He's in there mixing it up, rebounding, leading the break, initiating offense, did a little bit of everything for him. It was pretty impressive. This was, in my opinion, a pretty fascinating recruitment. And yes, NIL wound up being a significant factor. There's no surprise there. We talked about that a lot. I've heard north of 600K in rev share and NIL both. Who really knows? What I will say is, though, if that's true, or if those numbers are close to accurate, it shows you how bullish that John Calipari is on him. But we've known that for a while now. This isn't a secret. It didn't sneak up on anybody. Hey, Coach Cal, by the way, he has Arkansas's NIL insured now. So sleep easy, donors. But, when it comes to the rest of the pitches from the contenders, it really came down to Arkansas's track record with, John Calipari. And we know Arkansas's top 10 of all college basketball programs and the amount of NBA players that they have. And it came down to being able to fast track his development, get him to the NBA and win a lot of games in the process, versus Providence being able to offer or guarantee him a more immediate role on the floor over there. So he took a look at the big picture and made his decision. And it also helps that John Calipari's been on this one for a long, long time. If John Calipari prioritizes you for well over a year, you're not going to Providence. No disrespect, but it is what it is. And Abdu Tore visited Arkansas in 2024 in the fall. We remember that. We know they tracked him his entire junior season and through the grassroots scene, throughout the spring, throughout the summer. And as we pointed out several times on the show here, there were even some preliminary talks about Abdu Tore reclassifying and joining the Razorbacks this season, at the time when they weren't 100% sure yet on Carter's decision. Now, those conversations, preliminary or not, if it was ever a realistic possibility or not, they don't happen if you're not a believer in a kid's game and his ability to impact things. He made a second visit a few weeks ago. That went really, really well. At the time there, we were told, he wants to commit. They're in a little bit of a holding pattern. But then Cal infamously, if you guys recall, he left right as 2 high priority 5-star prospects, Jordan Smith Jr. and Arifan Gian, were wrapping up their visits in Fayetteville. And he flew out to Connecticut to do an in-home visit with Abdu Tore a couple weeks ago. That's when we put him on DEFCON 1. It's like, all right, that tells you something right there. Dude's trending towards being a Hog. And it all culminates with him jumping on board here today. And Cal shoving, Kim English in a locker. And, Providence fans, honestly, no disrespect here. Love your city. We just won 2 games there in March Madness. It was awesome. Had a great time down there. I want to go back. I am haunted by that Providence mascot and the never-ending Friar. You can't stop hearing it. It's stuck in your head. It never goes away. Whew. Respect to you guys. Mad respect to you guys, but I ain't gonna miss it. I'm really not. Abdu joins JJ Andrews in Arkansas's current commitment class for 2026. He finally has a running mate. JJ, he's been by himself since May? Is it when he committed? It's October, so now he has a second man with him. By the way, did you guys see the celebration with JJ and Abdu Tore and John Calipari when this was made official? Let's take a look at it. Exclusive stuff right here. You love it. You love to see it. Oh, man. Always fun to have a little bit of fun, right? Okay, so, this makes Cal, by the way, it also makes John Calipari 2-0 against the 24/7 Sports crystal ball. So I guess he shoved them in a locker as well. Literally happened with JJ Andrews. You guys recall that all the Missouri predictions were in there, and we were like, not so sure about that one, man. And lo and behold, he becomes a Razorback. Abdu Tore, we felt like he was a heavy hog lean, if you want to call it that, leading up to this. And all of a sudden you get that random, crystal ball prediction that went in for Providence earlier in the week. And we were like, really? Are we sure about that? And and so we stuck with Arkansas with our prediction this morning, and it wound up happening. And so good on Cal for also shoving 24/7 Sports in a locker with those predictions. JJ and Abdu Tore, that's one hell of a defensive tandem. That's going to be nasty for Arkansas next year. And, 2 college-ready frames, 2 absolute dogs, 2 absolute winners. These are the kind of guys that you want representing your program. If my math is correct, this is going to put Arkansas, I think, about number 8 overall in the team rankings, recruiting rankings. So, and that's just with 2 commits. And Arkansas is not done. So they're still tracking very much towards a strong finish here. In the number 1 class, it's still in play. It is. And we've talked about that. Can John Calipari get there? This helps. Need a couple more ads, and then you're going to be in a pretty good spot. I think the Hogs should be good to go on the wing now. You got Abdu Tore, JJ Andrews, probably more of maybe a 2, but can certainly play the wing and probably will. You expect to have Isaiah Sealy back. You could have Billy Richmond back. You're pretty loaded up there right now. I'd be surprised if they took another freshman wing. The exception would be Baba Oladaton, who he's just so versatile. He can do so many different things. Like, you know what I mean? Like positionally, he's a 6'10" guard. So you don't play him at the 2, play him at the 2. You don't play him at the 3, play him at the 3. He adds a little bit of weight, play him at the 4. It doesn't matter. But I don't see him adding another true wing necessarily. I would like to see Arkansas, if they're running out this high school class, Cal's got his 4-4-2 model that he likes, and it's subject to change, but 4 returners, 4 freshmen, couple transfers. For the rest of the freshman class, I'd like to see him get a lead guard, preferably one that can shoot it. There's not a whole lot of those out there. And then a front court piece, right? Because your front court's going to be interesting. Nick Pringle's out of here. Trevin Brazil's out of here. We'll see with Malik Ewan. Does he stick around for his final year? Does he go pro? What is that going to look like? How do guys like Paolo Samido, develop over the course of the year? And what kind of role do you feel like they're going to be able to play? But they're going to need to make some front court additions. I'd like to see him get a young guy in there. Arkansas already has received visits from, 5 stars, Caleb Holt, Brandon McCoy, Jordan Smith Jr., Arifan Gian, as well as last year in Mika Muranen. And if you guys have been tapped into the pod at the Palace, you're fully aware of all those guys. The only one with a clear commitment timeline right now is Big Arifan, the big fella, who he plans on announcing next month. And he's still got a visit to Indiana. He's still got a second visit to Houston. And Houston's going to be hard to beat, but Arkansas really feels like it has a shot here. And I'd imagine they're going to need to put their money where their mouth is if they feel that way, and just see if Kelvin Sampson and the Cougars are willing to do the same. And if you wind up getting him, you're gonna be bled dry doing it. He's going to be the only one that you get. That's my stance on it. Give that man an offer he can't refuse, or give him one that Kelvin Sampson's going to have to be digging under the couch cushions to be able to match, right? Because I think he's that good. I think he'd be a hell of a get for him. I think he's got to be the top priority in the front court. There's other good options there. Mika, he's playing overseas this year and, intends on going to college next season. He's really, really turned his stock around. Looks great. The Ratliff twins, very interesting prospects, high upside, need to add some weight, probably more on the project side. No, project side's not right. Still need some more development if you're going to be major contributors in the SEC. They got a whole year to do that though. So certainly some options. As for the rest, it could be waiting a while unless something changes and new timelines emerge, though. And because things have been going real slow at a snail's pace with this 2026 class, a lot of coaches are holding off. And they're waiting to see what changes come with the, this rev share budgets and, the NIL Go clearinghouse, all these new attempted regulations and rules and legislations, and it's changing every day. And they're kind of holding out to see what this is actually going to look like. And then on the flip side, a lot of 2026 prospects, because of that, they're holding out as well and hope that, the offers are able to increase and things become a little bit more clear as time goes along here. So we might see a lot of spring commitments, which will be crazy because if you got a bunch of 5-star prospects who haven't committed in the spring and it's the middle of portal season, it's going to be wild. We're going to be busy over here at the pod at the Palace. All right. The general consensus though, is that with all the uncertainty, the compensation packages right now, the NIL packages have been a little bit lower than expected for these agents who are presenting them to these high school players. And that's kind of where the holdup stands right now. So, but of that group of guys here that we talked about, I still like Arkansas. I like where they're at with Brandon McCoy quite a bit. I think USC, I'm looking forward to the fights this weekend, by the way, but USC and Eric Musselman, them whiffing on Taj Ariza, probably makes them a bigger player in the game here for McCoy. I still like Arkansas's chances to win a battle between the two there. He just visited Alabama. That's going to be one to keep an eye on. They're looking to make a big push to get back in the top of the conversation with him. Michigan, Miami, others involved in there as well. It is worth noting that Brandon McCoy did just sign a deal with Nike, an endorsement deal. Well, this is different than Tay Kinney signing with Adidas, right? Arkansas is a Nike school, so that's good. It's notable. Cal has a good relationship with those guys as well. So do others, but that's it's at least noteworthy, right? Caleb Holt, he's at Arizona right now as we speak on an official visit. It's a little bit crazy with him, man. Honestly, like between them and Houston and Alabama and Auburn, Providence again, Fryer, Kentucky, Arkansas, somebody's going to emerge here. Somebody's going to emerge here. A lot of people think Alabama is the clubhouse leader, but there's just so many different variables, so many different visits. We know that Cal is making a renewed push here after going to see him and, the fam earlier in the week. It's believed that money is going to talk in this recruitment as well. So we'll certainly keep an eye on that one. The Caleb Holt, JJ Andrews, Abdu Tore dynamic would be interesting. I think Brandon McCoy might be a better fit there from a basketball standpoint, but Caleb Holt, if we're talking about JJ and Abdu being winners and tough as nails and doing all the little things to win basketball games, those kind of players, that'd be one hell of a trio, man. Jordan Smith Jr. visiting Duke this weekend. This is one to watch very, very closely. Obviously, we've been mentioning Arkansas and Duke at the top with that one for, gosh, who knows how long. He's one that's expected to commit in the spring. Scheduled for a visit to Kentucky next weekend. We know John Shire is going to be tough to beat there, but Arkansas right there in the mix at the top. Mika, we talked about here. I will say, he's playing pro ball in Europe this year with the intent of playing a year of college next season, then going pro. I think that him doing this as opposed to coming back and playing his senior year of high school in the States, I think it bodes well for Arkansas, actually, having already had him on campus for an official visit. It's not like he's going to be coming taking a bunch of officials while he's on a professional contract over in Europe, right? And so schools like Arkansas, I think he took an official to Michigan, maybe another spot or two, but it feels like if those schools are still recruiting him heavily, they've got a little bit of a leg up here with the familiarity. And he was teammates with JJ Andrews. You remember, not this summer, but the summer before that, they won Peach Jam together with Brad Beal Elite. And then the big one to watch is, mentioned him a minute ago, 5-star Baba Oladaton, 6'10" guard, former number 1 prospect in the 2027 class who reclassified. He's a top 10 prospect in this class. He's visiting later this month. Heavy priority for Arkansas and John Calipari. He's been out there to see him a number of times now. He's taking trips to Maryland, who's, running warm with him at the moment. Virginia Tech, where his dad played. He's checking out Georgetown this weekend. So still a little bit of a ways to go there. But as you can tell, Arkansas is still in the thick of it with a lot of these prospects here, and I can't wait to see how it plays out. Hey, don't forget to join us at 6 o'clock here on Friday out at Goat Lab Red in Oak Plaza on North Garland in Fayetteville for a little Pot at the Palace primetime, previewing primetime at the Palace. We're looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Sipping on some cold beers, 25-cent wings while we're out there, talking a little bit of ball before we head to Bud Walton and watch some ball, which I'm really looking forward to. The Midnight Madness event tonight. We got 3-point contest, dunk contest, little scrimmage action, and we're going to have some rapid reaction and takeaways that I'll post for you guys later tonight after all the festivities wrap up. That's right. 4 Pot at the Palace episodes in one day. You love to see it. That means basketball is near. Hey, appreciate everybody for tuning in and rocking with us. Congratulations to Abdu Tore for making his commitment. Good job on the Razorbacks and Coach Cal for getting it done. It's been Curtis Wilkerson. We'll catch you guys next time in the Pot at the Palace. See you later.